Okay, this video is going to be our custom round robin lead distribution playbook. You would want this in your business if you do not want to buy a new third-party system to help you round robin your leads to your sales reps. There's usually two options in Salesforce. You have one option, which is you could do a simple system. Salesforce actually has a help article on how to set up a round robin. It's very simplistic though. You don't really have much control over it. And then once you outgrow that and you start having, let's say, multiple round robins happening, different criterias for when you want to kick off those round robins, that's usually when you start having to buy some kind of third-party system, whether that's like lean data or something on the app exchange, or in this situation, you got to build something. So I'm going to talk you through how to do this. And then number two, we're going to talk about if you should keep it simple, depending on needs, or if you need to build something out like this if you're a little bigger or you're in a budgetary type of situation where you want to consider something like this versus buying a new product. Okay, so to start this conversation off, I just need to make sure we're all aligned on what we're even talking about. So to clarify my definition of a round robin, this is what this is. You have, let's say, two different sales reps, sales rep 1 and sales rep 2. You have leads that come in to your system, or you have leads that are coming into your business. Instead of trying to figure out, okay, a lead came in, do I give this to sales rep 1 or sales rep 2? And then doing that every single time, if you stick with that system, you run into an issue. You run into the issue of possible favoritism. You start giving good leads to one of the reps, maybe on purpose, or maybe it's subtle mean to, or you just don't keep up with the fair amount. Maybe on accident, you start giving more leads to somebody else versus the other person. So round robin is just a fancy term used to basically create a system that keeps things fair and automated. So a lead comes in and it just cycles between the two people. So it'll say, hey, a lead came in the last time we gave it to sales rep 1. So this time we're going to give it to sales rep 2. And then when a new lead comes in, I'll say, hey, last time we gave it to sales rep 2. So we're going to give it to sales rep 1. That way there's no favoritism, there's no hand picking, and you can make sure that the leads all get distributed evenly to the sales rep. So everybody technically has the same chance to be able to hit their quota and you're not involved in it. So it's a really popular system that gets set up within businesses. If you don't have that, you might want to consider that. If you are using that and maybe you're in this situation where you want to build something a little more custom, here's an idea to do that and also avoid paying for some different tools out there. I would also recommend looking into the tools if you're not on a budgetary kind of restriction here. So that's what this is about. That's what we're going to talk about and how you can customize that for your business. Okay. So let's review this diagram real quick together. Up here, we have a new lead that comes in. Okay. Where does that come from? That usually is some kind of web form that you have floating out there, whether that's like on your website under the contact us, or that's a paid ad that you pushed people to that gets them to sign up. Some form though that will then push that lead into Salesforce for us. So a new lead comes in, they go to this web form, and then the very first thing that we want to ask is some kind of automation criteria. So when we're doing this custom, you can't really do this with this, but you can. So for the sake of this conversation, we're going to say you can't. It gets difficult to really have a criteria. And so what we're going to do here is basically ask a question. Is this the one we actually care to round robin? To set some parameters around what this client asked us to do, they had their USA and their Canada leads. They wanted to round robin to a couple sales reps on their team. And then for everything else, if it was like a European client or an Asian client or a Latin American client, they wanted to just send it to a different queue. They just wanted different people to work those, and they weren't really worried about what happens to those ones as far as who works them. For the US and Canada, they did want to make sure that it was round robined out. So in our situation, we wanted to create some kind of criteria to look for if it was a US or Canada lead. The way we did that is we worked with our marketing team, and on this web form, they had a question that they introduced to that web form. Where are you located, right? And it was a drop down. They simply select, hey, I'm in the US, or I'm in Canada, or I'm in, wherever, Europe, all these other places that they had. So we then can collect that data, and then when it hits Salesforce, we now know, hey, they selected that they are in US or Canada. So we know this is a US or Canada lead, and it needs to be round robined out. So that's going to kick off this automation that we create. Now that we know that, if it goes down this yes path, we then created a custom object in Salesforce called round robin. The reason we want to do this is so that we can hold the value and tell us whether or not the last lead that came in, who it went to. Did it go to sales rep 1 or did it go to sales rep 2? Right? So we're creating this brand new record just basically for the sake of telling us what one or what lead went to the last sales rep. This is like a possibility at this point to kind of lose you. I know when I first was going through this with our developers as we built this out, I'm trying to keep it simple. Don't get so caught up on knowing that this is a custom object unless you're super technical. Basically, we're just trying to make sure in Salesforce we remember, did we save that lead for sales rep 1 or sales rep 2? Who did the last one go to? So that way we could rotate evenly. That's all we're really trying to do here, okay? And then once we do that, we have a formula that would tell us, oh, well, the last one, it actually tells us after we create this record and have a series of things happen, the last one went to, sales rep number 1. So this one needs to go to number 2, or it went to number 2 and it needs to go to number 1 this time. So we are controlling that through a formula in Salesforce. And then the actual lead assignment rules that are available to you in Salesforce, that's what's going to assign this out to the sales reps. This is a little more technical playbook than I usually do in these series. I usually keep it pretty high level, but then I wanted to document it. So I'm putting it in here. Again, don't get so caught up in some of the technical talk if you're feeling like this is just starting to go over your head with some of these things over here. There's some things inside of Salesforce for these next 3 steps that we can use that are available to us and doesn't cost extra money. We can just easily set up to make sure it goes to the right rep. And then the last thing we want to do, since we're creating a record here so that we know which one to send it to, we don't also want to just store up all these records that nobody's ever going to go back and look at or care about. The only reason we're creating this is so that we can just know who to send it to. And then after we assign it to the right person, we don't care to keep that inside of Salesforce. So as a best practice, we want to delete that. And if you haven't ran into this already, it's pretty rare for me to not have this conversation with founders. The storage on Salesforce is extremely high. Like, you pay a lot of money for a gigabyte of data. And so where you want to save some coin is making sure you don't have excess stuff in Salesforce that you don't want in there. So definitely at this last step, we're going to delete that stuff so that it doesn't clog up your system with all this extra storage that nobody's ever going to look at. Because quite literally, it's just used for a placeholder. You won't ever refer back to this. So we delete this as well. And then we end this. And the reason this is so helpful, if you're still with me here and you didn't get 2 leads with me on some of the technical pieces, the reason this is nice is because, like I explained, there's basically 2 options that I see. You have a very simple round robin that you can run where you just say, okay, hey, we want to just round robin all of the leads that come in. And then the second option is, hey, maybe we want to control that a little more and only round robin these ones, or set a different criteria for when we round robin it. It has to be a particular lead, like this case. It has to be US or Canada if we want to actually kick this off for a round robin. If you start hitting that point, then you go the route of doing like a lean data or engine. I think there's several others on the App Exchange with Salesforce. So the reason that we went this route with this client is we needed to kind of get something shipped a little bit faster. They didn't want to have to go through the whole red tape with their business. They're a much larger client. So they had a bunch of red tape they'd have to go through to even get approval to do this. And it would be a nightmare and really cause a lot of people to miss deadlines. And really, we came up with a solution for them. It works great. And it's all native into Salesforce. So yeah, we had to get a little creative coming up with it. But it's a very maintainable system. There's nothing here to really kind of lose you to make it around if we need to in the future, or make adjustments to it in the future. It's all fairly easy to maintain after we set it up. And then do anything extra. There's no extra buying or anything like that. Maybe a little bit more time on our side at this point to set it up for the client. But other than that, nothing else. Would I recommend this? The second part of this video I promised was who should be using this, who shouldn't be. If you're smaller scale, I mean, this company's, doing, I think close to 100 million in revenue. Therefore, it's more for us leading towards like an enterprise client for somebody who we'd call an enterprise. And they have a lot more things going on within their system, a lot more sales reps, a lot more things to consider, a lot more complexities in the sales process. And so they were at that stage to either buy a product or do something like this. Now, if you're smaller, let's say 5 million and below, you're going to be more at the stage where you probably don't even need to consider this too much. Maybe there's a use case for it right now, but you probably don't have a crazy amount working for you right now. So in this situation, you probably don't even need to really consider it yet. You probably can just do a all-encompassing round robin if you want to do that, or just use these lead assignment rules to assign it out to different people. So if, the country is USA, great, just assign it to this person. If the country is this, assign it to this person. And that works pretty well when you have maybe 5 to 10 sales reps. Once you start getting past that point, you see more of this complex situation like they were in, where there's different situations, different quotas, different people reporting to different managers that they have to be concerned with to keep the fairness and keep everything in check. So consider, obviously you can always break that rule. It's not this is what you have to live by. That's just from the things I've seen experience wise. Be under 5 million and have a need for something like this, depending on what your business does and where you guys are at and what you want to do. So it's not a rule that you have to live by, but something to kind of consider, just what I've seen working with several different companies of all sizes. Awesome. Well, if you have any questions on setting this up, or if you want us to come in and do this for you, we've obviously done it a few times now. There's a link in the description here. You can reach out to us. We'll get you set up with one of our sales reps to figure out if we're a good fit for you guys. And if we are, we'd be more than happy. Love to come in and help you guys set this up and tell practices about how you can best use this.